Hey everybody, this is On. I'm coming to you with this month's video. And for those that don't know me, I'm an energy mentor. So I actually work with the energies. I understand the energy currents that are present and try to help other people understand what those currents are about, what they're dealing with. Um, they're always present. Energy is always present in our life, but when we learn to work with it, when we understand the currents are present, we can then start making wiser choices and we can start opening the doors to bringing forth things that can be powerful instead of defeating for us along the way. So the more we know about it, the more we can be in the flow, the more that we're in the flow, the more that we can create favorable things in our life. I do author this book, which is The Code Journey. Every year I put out a new edition. You can find that on my website if you'd like to check it out more, and that's at compassioncodes.com. I'm currently working on 2027, going to do some shifts in the formatting a little bit, so I'm very excited to bring those out and to see what I can offer up around those as well. But this month, what we're talking about is letting go of things so that we can turn things around in our life. And this is what's connecting with our energies coming up in May. So when we start to look at this, May has some pretty intense energy. There's a lot of kind of this power battle energy, but for some people, that's going to bring up their confidence and self-assurance and get them to um, take some action that they might not normally take, to find the confidence and the strength to do that. But we also have a lot of accident energy, death energy. And I know a lot of people don't like that energy. They say, oh, I don't like it when you talk about death and accidents. But, I think when we learn to work with it, here again, we can actually end up avoiding a lot of those things. Um, we can't avoid them all. There are things that are outside of our control that belong to other people, their lives, things like that. But certainly, it can help us to be more aware if we know those energies are present. And there's things about death energy that it doesn't always have to be a literal death, like somebody dying in our life, or it doesn't always mean that we're the ones that are going to die or have an accident. But it does bring us to that awareness that, hey, this is a time that we need to pay more attention. And these deaths sometimes can be figurative deaths. So this month, I think there is a lot of that figurative death going on that is about breaking through things. It's about letting go of things, releasing things, ending things, that is happening. And this is so important. If we are going to turn things around in our life, we have to break through things. We have to break through the things that challenge us, that scare us. We have to face those things. Otherwise, if we're not facing those things, what happens is we end up in these spirals and these patterns, and we just keep getting back into the same kind of pattern over and over again. Only usually, if we're not facing things, we end up facing them under harder conditions. And that's not fun at all. So, as much as we may feel worn down, and I've heard a lot of people express this, I know I've been in this space lately too, just feeling really worn down, maybe by life, by what has to be done, what's happening in the world, whatever the case is for you. And a lot of this feeling worn down comes because we're locking ourselves into these cycles and we're not breaking through and we're not embracing things. And it's very hard when you're feeling like you've gone as far as you can, you feel like you're at your breaking point with things. Um, Celebrate that and rejoice that, I guess, is one of the things I would say, because that means you're right on the edge of being able to let go. And if we don't let go willingly in life, what happens is we get these really hard situations that try to break us down in order to force us to let go. And sometimes this is a divine intervention thing. Sometimes it's something that's trying to break us down so that we won't move forward in life. In this energy, I think we have to really be proactive with it, but we have to, again, stay very alert, because when this energy is present, when we are stressed, when we're sitting at that breaking point, that is when we're more likely to have accidents, and accidents that are going to be life-changing. We hear this a lot from people that come through things. And I know that that was the case for me almost 9 years ago when I was in my accident. And it was life-changing at that point. Um, I don't think I was really supposed to live from that accident. The police reinforced that most people would not have lived, let alone be walking, talking, any kind of coherency afterwards. And I did. I came through it, but it's taken a lot. It's taken its toll in my life. But yeah, they're life changing. And this is the thing that we often miss during these points when we are turning things around, when we are on the breakthroughs, when we are letting things go, is that we can get wrapped up in things and then we're not paying as much attention as we should be. In this energy, another thing that we also experience is shattered dreams. And this is a harsh one for people because they're like, man, I just feel like every piece of hope has been pulled out from under me, or, that literal proverbial pulling the rug out from under you kind of feeling, feeling like, man, I've worked so hard only to see it fall apart. And sometimes what we forget is that things have to fall apart in order to come together. So sometimes what feels like our dreams are being shattered is a point of reevaluation. Again, it's bringing us to this sort of precipice to get us to let go, to get us to release, to get us to say, look, okay, let's relook at things. Maybe I'm trying to hold on to something that I shouldn't be holding on to. This reevaluation process is very important. And in particular, the shattered dreams energy will connect with forcing our will and our human desires. And, it's one thing to follow and have some goals, but when we get to that point where it's just like, I'm only going to accept what I want and nothing else. Um, Now, I'm all for people, again, having goals. I'm all for them striving for things that they want, but we also have to know when we're fighting against divine will in that process. So when we're trying to force our will to happen, when it's not happening, sometimes these blocks and these obstacles are a point of showing us, look, I've got to redirect you. And that is also sometimes when accidents come in, because sometimes we're going down a path that is just not going to work. It's not in divine alignment. It's not a path that is going to be favorable for us. And we may not see that because we think, well, isn't this kind of a harmless thing to have? And most of the time, yes, but it may still not take us in the direction that we need to be going, that we're here for in one way or another. So this forcing our will and our human desires actually ends up holding us back. It ties us into the past. It ties us into um, more challenges, more difficulties, karmic cycles, things like that. So part of our growth and our breakthroughs is to let go of our will and human desires. And if what we're striving for is in divine alignment, we may just need to do it in a different way that we haven't honed in on. And until some of those dreams become shattered, sometimes we don't find our path along the way. Sometimes things have to be shattered. Sometimes those things that we think are so important to us, we have to let them go. And there's some deeper layers behind this when you want to get in and really explore it, because some of these deeper layers behind this have to do with worshiping things over worshiping, say, God. And that is what happens a lot of times when we're trying to force our will and our desires and do those things. So redirecting our intention to what's important. And this is all part of the growth and part of the breakthroughs. And so don't worry when those dreams are shattered. They're being shattered for a reason. And again, there could be two core reasons behind it. Either something is trying to just break you down so you give up totally and you don't move forward and you just fall back into misery and you fall back into these cycles and patterns, or they could be getting shattered again because you've got a divine intervention going on that is saying, hey, I need you to look in this other direction, or hey, I'm going to help you get to those goals, but we got to take a different path to get there. And that's where we really need to tune in that trust, that faith in God, divine source in there. Now, all of this shattering dreams, these accidents, things like that, also tie into purification. So, purification is another part to all of this. And with purification, if we can do this consciously and lovingly with ourselves, and I think that's another challenge because a lot of times people don't feel like that process is very loving in there. And there are times that certainly when God says, it's time to move and it's time to go, things are going to be purified from your life. It's going to happen. It's like, okay, you don't need this anymore. Um, and again, that's always why I say, don't get too attached. Don't get too attached. Yes, you want to build connections and relationships and things like that, but also, especially, don't get too attached to things in our life. So this purification process is really great. And we not only can do that physically, right? You do that when you spring clean your house and you get in, you do that deeper cleaning. But this is also an internal process, an emotional process, a spiritual process that is going on in this purification. So encouraging you to um, embrace that consciously and fully. And when we realize this, I mean, this is just like that good, deep cleanse. What are we really getting in and looking at ourselves? What are we trying to hold on to? Where are we trying to force our will? What are we trying to make happen that isn't working? Because maybe it's not going to serve us in the future. And so it's being blocked for a reason. But doing that purification of the hate, of the anger, of the proverbial sins, as they would say, purifying our own selves. And this is a huge thing because when we purify, that's when we can shift away from the accidents and into the transformation pieces. And that it can become really powerful. Now, the more we're willing to purify in ourselves, the more we will break through in things. And this is important. So that is like leaning into God, leaning into that, those spiritual values and really just taking hold and going, okay, I can do this. I can, be in compassion. I can be in, kindness with people. I can, stand in the various virtues, of things, and I can focus on my food that I'm putting in my body and let that cleanse. And this purification process has a lot to do with stepping into the truth. And this too can tie into the shattered dreams because sometimes we think we're following the truth and that's not what's happening. We're not following it. And as the truth comes up, those dreams can be shattered or those illusions are shattered as more information surfaces. So coming into truth and integrity, and I think this a lot of times comes down to us speaking the truth, not the political narratives, not all the stuff that's out there in the news cycle, but speaking our truth. When whatever happens, I'm feeling this way but also knowing the deeper layers of truth of realizing that no, I'm not a victim. No, I'm not really in misery. I don't like the experience I'm having maybe, but I'm not actually in misery. There's, always hope. There's always possibility. There's always opportunities if I want to take them. And starting to shift that is also part of that purifying of the way we're thinking of things and stepping into the truth of like, nope, God has got me through everything. No matter what is thrown at me, God's going to get me taken care of. That doesn't mean I don't do anything. Of course, I have to do my part, but God's got it. So if I actually trust and believe in that and know that truth, then I don't have to worry about all of these other pieces. I don't have to worry about but what's being removed because the only thing God is going to remove out of my life is the things that are harmful for me. And the things that God brings into my life are probably going to be better than what I'm imagining for myself. They may not be as fancy and extravagant in the physical world, but they are going to have things that those fancy and extravagant pieces can't offer. So this purification, I really encourage you to embrace it on so many levels, whether it is, again, the language you're speaking, getting rid of cussing, getting rid of all of these different things. Go in and just look at, I mean, we have, 10 basic commandments and just a few core virtues to live by. And that is so core, regardless of what your belief system is. Those key pieces are so important. And then what we want to do is we want to take whatever challenges that we're having and turn them into a blessing. Recognize the blessing within those challenges. Okay, this situation or this person might be really testing me, but you know what? This is really helping me to build strength in being patient, or it's really helping me to build strength in not taking things so personally, or just allowing people to be who they are and to take their own path. So many ways that we can turn that around and say, well, what is the blessing in this situation? What am I receiving? What am I getting? It's not just all misery and pain and difficulty and horrible things. And when we start to do this, this is actually a needed piece. This is a very needed piece to stop cycling in unfavorable hardships. We don't get out of the hardships as long as we're holding on to the pain. And so we have to be willing to let go of that pain, let go of the anger, let go of the resentment, let go of the need to control, let go of all of these pieces, let go of having to be the center of attention, let go of having to have everything affirmed by other people. Let go. It comes back to that old saying, let go, let God in there. And when we do this, we will stop cycling through those unfavorable hardships and we will make the breakthroughs and the doors will open. But a lot of times what happens is we have to let go first. And that can feel scary and that can feel very uncertain. But we have to make room. That letting go is making room. That purification is making room for the blessings. So if we don't get rid of the stuff that blocks the blessings, if we don't get rid of the frustrations, the challenges, the negative emotions, the vices, we don't have room for the blessings to come in. So we've got to do that releasing. And in this period, this is a period where we have to experience things for ourselves. And sometimes we sit back and we go, you know, I don't like this experience. I don't know that I want to experience this. But when you learn to embrace the experience, you will pull wisdom forward that will be amazing. We can watch somebody else do something a million times, but until we do it, we don't have the actual experience. And that means that we might be able to have empathy or compassion for somebody, but we don't truly know what they're feeling. We don't truly know what that experience is like or what it takes. And of course, even people having the same experience can have different things and different information and wisdom and things come up too, right? Because if you have somebody who's, say, doing wall climbing and they're a perfectly capable young person full of energy and their muscles are strong, their experience in wall climbing is going to be a little bit different than, say, somebody who's 70 years old who has arthritic conditions and their body doesn't move so well, or who is in a wheelchair and is using apparatus to climb that wall. So the experiences are different even within it. And I think that that is something also for us to keep in mind in these days and times, is that we're all experiencing things a little bit different, even when we're experiencing the same thing. It's opening different things up for us, different wisdom up for us in there. So, but the experiences are critical to the success. They're critical to moving forward. And if we don't embrace the experience, we can't break some of the cycles that we need to break. We can't do some of the releasing because, in essence, when we reject an experience, we're choosing to hold on to the misery. We're choosing to hold on to the pain. We're choosing to hold on to the past. We're choosing to hold on to the restrictions. So if we try to move forward without embracing the experience, it's kind of like tying a rope around our waist and the other end to a pole and then thinking we can go somewhere. It doesn't work very well at all. Um, And so we have to untie that rope. We have to have the experience of getting out and being free. And yes, that means that sometimes we're going to run into some things that might not be pleasant. But without it, we don't learn certain things. We don't learn how to be independent. We don't learn where we need to have boundaries. We don't learn uh, what opportunities, what else can be explored out there. Um, and then caution, because anytime we're going through these periods of big transformation, a big breakthrough, it's not just caution. Yes, we need to pay attention to our surroundings and what's happening and be cautious in the actions that we're taking and that we're doing. But we need to be especially cautious with spiritual predators, and they are going to be very active in the month of May 2026. And they come out very much, and their purpose is to distract us. It's to distract us away from the breakthroughs. It's to regain control over us, to actually hold us back and hold us in these karmic cycles. And many of the people who actually are spiritual predators have been very praised, very revered. They're very well noted. They're very big. They have a lot of followers, things like this, but they do tend to come out. So we need to be really careful of those people that come forward with us, because they are not always moving us in the direction that's best for us. And I think that that's important. Mentors, they understand you got to have your experiences. They will help support you, but they don't tell you what to do. They're not trying to control you. Spiritual predators, they're going to be around as long as you're paying them money. They promise you a lot of ease, a lot of comfort, like, oh, you don't have to go through all of that stuff. Oh, all the happiness is coming to you now, and joy and bliss and everything else. Well, you got to be a part of that process. You don't get that just by putting some money down with somebody or going through one of their programs. And so that is something we need to be alert to as well when we're trying to let go of things, and make sure that we are also letting go of letting other people control our mind, our thoughts, pull us down these other paths. And the thing about the spiritual predators is it's very tricky, because they oftentimes appear really great and wonderful, but they're just all image and show. So ask yourself this month, and work with this over the next month, what do I need to be letting go of? What do I need to be letting go of? How can I open room for blessings to enter? And again, this is all about saying, it's not about just saying, okay, well, let me expand my space to make room for some blessings. You have to get rid of those vices, because as long as those vices are there, as long as you're holding on to the past garbage and you're not taking the garbage out, it's going to taint and affect everything else, right? I mean, think about it. If you have mold in your home, if you don't clear the mold out of your home, you can add on to that home as much as you want to, but that mold is going to keep spreading, and it's going to spread right into those additions that you put in. You have to remove the mold if you want to have a healthy home. It's not about just adding another room to the house. Okay. Same type of thing there. We've got to clean up the stuff that is causing us damage along the way. And when you do that and you open the room up and the blessings start coming in and you make the breakthroughs on things, then that has less and less power. So the more you purify, the less power and influence that the hardships have over you, and the stronger you make yourself in that purification. Now, this isn't about being perfect, okay? It's just about cleaning things up, just like doing a deep clean on the house, deep spring clean on the house, very similar. It's just about saying, yep, the more things that are God-centered in my life, are centered into the divine presence in my life, the more things that are going to flow, because there isn't room then for the garbage. So see what you can do to work with that, and take the time to get your own experiences, to let go of things and see how they turn around for you. Take care, everybody. And again, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it. I'm a very small channel. Helps me out when you do. It makes a difference. And, leave a comment if you'd like, and go over to the website and check it out, compassioncodes.com. See you next month.